with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Israel announces it has split Gaza in two. And, in not so many words, are saying they will occupy at least half of it. Meanwhile, Gaza civilian death toll tops 10,000 with 25,000 injured. U.S. ports increasingly hit with protests over shipments to Israel. Meanwhile, in this country, Election Day across the country, we'll give you a roundup of which races to keep an eye on. In Washington, Biden re-election team says it's staying the course. Trump on the stand in New York trial basically admits, yeah, did a little bit. And tomorrow night, only 5 kids left in the kids' table debate. Give you a little preview of that. And with 10 days until a government shutdown, Republicans are meeting today to try and figure out how to legislate. SAG-AFTRA rejects the producer's last and best offer. Tesla mechanics in Sweden strike and force company to the table. And the foremost climate scientist in this country, who warned us about climate change in the first place, says it's worse than we thought. Again. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Emma, please do the honors.
It is a Newsday Tuesday.
That is correct. It is Newsday Tuesday. Hold on, let me adjust. We should say right off the bat, Matt is out today because he got word that you
were gonna mess with the camera right away.
No, that Doug Burgum is not going to be in the debate tomorrow night, and he's in deep mourning.
It's a national day of mourning for North Dakotans across the country.
Yeah, Burgumentum in the Burgum recycling bin.
All right, well said.
Shoot. Yep. No, don't patronize me, please.
Well, also missing from the debate, of course, will be Mike Pence. You probably will not notice the absence of both those, except for we will see more opportunity for all 5, I would imagine. Although Vivek Ramaswamy always seems to look at the polls, see where non-Republican voters are. By that I mean young people, and then take that position. But you will see 5 people who will be incredibly bloodthirsty in their talk of what's going on in Israel and Gaza. We will get to Israel and Gaza in a bit. But first, wanted to play this clip. It's from the other day, and just remind you, because the UAW is in the process. Members are in the process of ratifying these different deals that they won under their strike. And it is a big deal. Obviously, the recent news has overshadowed this, but the implications of what the UAW have done, not just for the UAW, although that's, I think, quite significant, but what it's doing in terms of labor actions within the auto industry. And I suspect, like we were talking with Jane McAlevey the other day, we're going to see it across labor writ large. But here is Jim Cramer, and I can't remember. I mean, look, Jim Cramer is the only value to Jim Cramer, more often than not, is either in retrospect to tell you what just hit his car. He had no idea that it was coming down the road, or to just enjoy.
Right, when he has freakouts
about
workers actualizing their rights and getting higher wages.
I'm old enough to remember when he had a show with what was it called? Kramer and what was he was what's his face from Trump's? I can't even remember his name now.
Oh,
Kudlow?
Yes, yeah. Kudlow and Kramer. And that show was, Kramer was the liberal.
The reasonable one.
Yes,
gotcha.
Exactly.
I think that the UAW was underestimated the whole way because Fain just beat them everywhere. It was very much guerrilla action. It was very smart. They were completely, they were outgained at every turn. I mean, it was almost like Fain was a great NFL coach who really figured out all the weaknesses of the other team and just came in and blew them away. They were blitzing. They were doing everything right. I mean, they had like linebacker and corner blitzes and safety blitzes, and they like the other guys I love Farley and I love Barr, and I think that they were, wow, what happened? They were in the wow, what happened camp, and when the game was over, it was just a real beatdown.
You may take issue with this, Emma, and certainly sports better than I do. But I think the reason why the UAW was so effective was not because the coach was a master strategist in the same way as in this instance, and I don't know if there's a sports metaphor to be had here. Maybe it is. The wide receiver comes back to the huddle and says, "Dude, I'm open."
Yeah.
Because I think from talking to Jane McAlevey, the entire strike strategy was built upon the knowledge of the workers. They knew from working in these plants, they knew which ones were key to Ford and Stellantis and GM. They knew which ones would be tough to run without, being faced with a quick hit strike. They're the ones who knew all these things. And that is what I think, made the difference in this. I don't know what sport that would be.
I think
coach?
It's still definitely applicable to the NFL, if you want to say that, because the greatest coaches understand the strengths of their players and listen to them, especially more modern ones. So I don't think it's necessarily the worst metaphor. What?
All right. No, okay, that's fine.
I threw cold water.
Of course, you were going to say it's going to be football.
Yeah, well, sure. That's where most of my knowledge lies, I would say. But at the same time, I mean, I take great enjoyment in Kramer saying that the workers had such success here, because they did, while at the same time referring to two of the CEOs of the big three by first name to say how much he likes them. So you have to know that it's painful for him to admit this, and he must have heard from his good buddies, yeah, they really took us to the cleaners on this. And you know why? It's because they deserved it, and because it's been years and years of exploitative contracts and the big three automakers essentially saying, yeah, we know we promised that we'd put back your cost of living adjustment, but we're going to break that promise because, God, it's way nicer to get big bonuses for CEOs. And workers were done with that.
Two other stories in labor that are worth mentioning. I saw this, I think it was also in Barcelona, but in this country, we've got port workers. Now, where did my story on that just go? That was weird. I just had it here. We've got port workers who are, here it is, basically shutting down ports attempting to stop weapons that are being sent to Israel. That's happening at the AROC and ILWU Local 10 in Oakland. They have been, in 2014, they prevented Israeli ships from docking in Oakland. They've been turned away ever since. One of the longest lasting BDS victories. And now they're targeting a U.S. military ship that apparently is going to try and bring weapons there. In these times, Kim Kelly mentions that this is becoming a sort of concerted effort.
Amazing.
You like I say, the folks in Oakland are blocking this military ship, and we're starting to see this on the West Coast. I mean, those guys are pretty active in those the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. So we will see. But again, that's something that we could see around the country. And just on the SAG-AFTRA strike front, we're in day like, what is it now?
117.
117. The producers over the weekend sent their last and best offer. And my understanding is that SAG has basically said, thanks, but no thanks. The IA provisions, as I understand it, are that you will get paid if you are scanned, but you will not get paid.
Oh, the AI stuff.
The AI.
Yeah,
Did I say IA?
IA, yeah. It's okay.
You will get paid if your image or voice presumably is scanned. But it won't be based upon usage, which of course is completely the opposite of the entire structure of the way that actors get paid. They get paid for a session fee, essentially, or a one-time, performance or whatever it is, and then you get residuals. In this instance, it's we're going to pay you for the session fee with no residuals. And to be clear, this is not just residuals on an existing work. It basically would allow your likeness, image, whatever it is, to be not even repurposed, to be regenerated, to work again. And the acting and profession is a strange sort of a profession, because your commodity is your labor and on some level your brand.
Right.
And so even if they can generate the labor, you don't have to leave. All the labor that you've put in beforehand and your talent, your skill, whatever, your luck, contributes to the value of that product, and it would be unpaid. So
how are they still trying to float this? This is basically back to square one on the AI front. They're pretending like they're just increasing the one-time flat fee, but that was not the major concern.
Yes. And I think the idea was that they had given concessions on the other side. I'm not sure. I don't know the details of that offer. I just know how SAG-AFTRA has responded to it. I also can say that there is a push by some bigger name, and I think we reported on this a couple of weeks ago, bigger name actors. They want to get back to work. They want it to settle quick. So good for SAG-AFTRA and the negotiating people for holding out. That takes a lot of strength when you have some of your high profile people maybe giving you pressure.
Yep.
So we'll see. In the meantime, we've got a couple of sponsors today. I love both these sponsors, frankly. GiveWell has been advertising with us, I don't know, for I feel like 5 or 6 years, one time or another. And it's basically for folks who are looking to donate money. It doesn't matter how much it is, really. $3, $300, I don't know, I guess 3,000. But a lot of times when you're looking for a charity, you're not sure where your donation will have the most impact. In 2007, a group of donors had that exact question. They were looking to charities to answer that question, but nobody had it. And so basically what happened is they created GiveWell. It's an organization that provides rigorous, transparent research about the best giving opportunities they've found. GiveWell has now spent over 15 years researching charitable organizations only directs funding to the few of the highest impact opportunities they found in global health and poverty alleviation. Over 100,000 donors have used GiveWell to donate more than $1 billion. Rigorous evidence suggests these donations will save over 150,000 lives and improve the lives of millions more. And GiveWell wants as many donors as possible to make these informed decisions. You can find all of this research and recommendations on their site. It really is an amazing site. Whether you're looking to donate right now or not, I would urge you to go check it out. It's pretty fascinating. All of this research, all of it is for free. It's for free for you as a donor, and it's free for the donee. It is completely supported by a separate set of donations. And what they have over there is now what they're doing, they have a list of I think it's 4 top charities. And they basically lay it out for you. And you can go deep into this research as you want. And it's worth checking out. The thing that I really appreciate about them as well at GiveWell, they have literally a, I don't know what you call a silo or a menu thing, where they talk about their mistakes, where they talk about over the course of the years they've been working, where have they gone wrong? Whether it's we didn't publish all the research, we messed up on privacy policy, we didn't publish certain reviews, whatever it is. They're very incredibly transparent, and this is all free. I have found multiple charities over the years to this, some that still are in their top 4, and some that were, number 8 or 9. You can go back and see what they've recommended in the past. Right now, they're doing 4 of what their top charities are. Now, they have other grants that they give to sort of broader charities, but again, all on the same principles. They've got, a program to provide bed nets to prevent malaria. They've got medication to prevent malaria. Vitamin A supplements apparently save a lot of lives, but have difficulty to getting there. What I am supporting through GiveWell is cash incentives for routine childhood vaccines. Costs $160 to vaccinate an infant. The funding provides cash transfers to incentivize caregivers to bring babies to clinics for routine childhood vaccinations, which prevent disease and reduce child mortality. Also, it has a knock-on impact of giving money to people directly with, really very limited requirements on their behavior, i.e., bring your kid in, get vaccinated, save them from a disease.
Right.
If you've never donated through GiveWell before, you can have your donation matched up to $100 before the end of the year, as long as matching funds last. Claim your match. Go to givewell.org, pick podcast, and then enter the majority report with Sam Seder. Check out your $100 or up to $100. If it's $1, you'll get matched $1. If it's $10, you'll get matched $10. If it's $100, they'll match it $100. Do that at checkout. Make sure you know that you heard about GiveWell from the majority report. Get your donation matched. Again, that's givewell.org to donate, and then just pick podcast when they ask you where you heard about it. Also, today's program sponsored by IAC Laser Engraving. Told
Good
you about those
holiday
folks?
gift.
Yes. Well, actually, we got one coming. My sister got one for it's the cats. I'll explain that in a moment, but I don't want to be too, just in case he's not going to listen to the show.
Yeah.
But it's a leftist-owned worker collective started by a longtime listener, Ryan Lubin. He started this, I don't know, I guess it's been about 3.5 years now, or I should say 3 years now. His company is democratically structured, basically ensuring that any hierarchies or any type of anything like that are justified and efficient. They use sustainably sourced materials. They use an incredibly energy efficient laser technology, and they use this to bring you really cool and unique gifts or product. Hey, you can give it to yourself, products that you're not going to find anywhere else. This is really unique stuff, it also, remember, goes to supporting a business model that is structured around compassionate and worker-centered care, as opposed to the more traditional, crappy places that produce things. Check out a couple of these. These are awesome. This is the Fox. It is, they just call it the Fox, I guess. It is, as you can see.
It's so intricate.
It's a Fox. It is so intricate. It is 5 hand-painted, hand-glued layers. It is, you get this 3-dimensional design. So you could look at this forever, and you will find a different detail each time you take a look at it. It's on their website, $75. Just one of the many stuff. Saul right now has an owl in his or I should say, no, he's got a Sasquatch and a spaceman.
Oh yeah, the spaceman.
Astro.
Right.
I guess I don't know. Oh, and check this out. This is one of my favorites that I've ever seen of theirs. This is a honeycomb. It's 9-layer design. Totally awesome, as you can see. It's beautiful. Sweeten up your living space.
Oh.
Yeah, with the honeycomb. IAC lasers available for only $75 at iaclasers.com. But like I just sort of whispered, so that if my son, very unlikely, is watching the show, which is not inconceivable because he has a day off from school, but he will be getting a present. And I'm not going to say what it is right now because it just occurs to me he could be watching the show.
Yes, that's true.
But just completely unrelated, you can get puzzles, custom-made puzzles. They have puzzles there that are amazing. They come in these, beautiful inlaid boxes. But you can also have like photos. If it's your anniversary, your parents' anniversary, you put in a picture, and puzzle with their picture. If you have favorite pets or something to that effect, the puzzle can be the pets. I mean, it's anything. Go check out this site. Great company. IAClasers.com. Use the coupon code majority10 at checkout. Save 10% on your order. The website has been updated, so check it out. And make sure that you check out our podcast and YouTube description. We have always, our links are placed there. Let's go into what's happening with Election Day. We will, of course, touch on what's happening in Gaza. But right now, across the country, elections, as far as I know, in every state in the country, most of them, local.
Right.
Some are state, some are not. But there are some big ones that you should really, if you are interested, pay attention into, in addition to going out, obviously, and voting in your own elections. For my list, maybe some others, but Ohio is hugely important. We had talked about this several months ago when there was an attempt by the Ohio Republican legislature to make it impossible, essentially, for Ohio residents to amend their constitution, because there is a referendum on the ballot today to amend the Constitution to provide for a woman's right to choose as a right, an abortion. And obviously, Republicans want to curtail a person's right to get an abortion if they need one. And among other things, we'll talk about Mike Johnson in a bit.
Yeah, but if this passes, I mean, that's a big deal in protecting abortion in Ohio. And I saw Rachel Cohen of Vox tweeted out the statistic that I think is important, that 87% of the abortions in Ohio in 2021 occurred before 13 weeks. Less than 1% were after 20 weeks, and 0 were after 24 weeks. The Republican Party wants to do a 6-week ban, essentially, in Ohio. This would protect the right for an abortion up to 23 weeks. So that's like the overwhelming majority, 99% of abortions that are done. The 6-week ban would be devastating, and that's essentially a total abortion ban.
So Ohio, really important to go out and vote. I think they're also legalizing weed, or attempting to. Check that out. Pennsylvania, big Supreme Court race, will not determine the sort of Democratic-Republican split, but it will protect the Democratic majority there. McCaffrey is the Democrat who's running in Pennsylvania. Of course, there's also state houses seats and whatnot. Pennsylvania, I mean, Ohio's going to show us how much enthusiasm there is behind abortion rights. I think it's not hard to imagine that it's quite high, but we will see. Pennsylvania will give us a good sense as what this swing state is going to do. Again, none of this is determinate in terms of 2024, but it will give us a notion. In Virginia, Youngkin is trying to, all 140 seats for their House are up for grabs. I'm not sure how many in the Senate, but there's two districts, 31st and 16th, which are pretty big. Democrats control the Senate. Republicans control the House. There's an opportunity for Democrats to swing the control of the House, and that would be a good thing. Youngkin, on the other hand, wants to turn this into Florida. And so this is also, Virginia is always considered a big bellwether. It's going to impact the narrative going forward. In Kentucky, Andy Beshear, popular governor.
Democrat.
Who knows, though? I mean, it's a deeply red state. This is just going to give a notion of can Democrats win in red areas, despite the fact that people are mad at Joe Biden. And in Mississippi, don't think that you're going to see a Democratic governor. It's Reeves versus, is it Presley, I think?
Yes, the second cousin of Elvis Presley.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, second cousin, and got the name. I mean, that's really the money situation there. That's the Democrat that's running. So,
but whereas in Kentucky, basically Beshear is saving things like preventing an abortion ban and preventing all of the worst of right-wing policies. Will give us a notion of how much people want to avoid that. In Mississippi, we get a notion of at least where black voting turnout is. Again, red state, but this is, and there's only so much information you can glean from these things, but it will be one data point. And then, of course, New Jersey, there's a couple of key races in New Jersey as well. And then local elections around the country. So keep an eye on that. We'll give you an update on those races tomorrow.
And if you are in any of those states, go
vote.
I mean, especially Ohio. This is as big as it gets, I would say, in terms of ballot referendums.
Kentucky, same situation. You're voting against an abortion ban in many respects.
That's true.
So check that out. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening with the potential for a government shutdown. Right now, Republicans are meeting with, Mike Johnson has everybody down there in the basement in I'm not sure which congressional office space. No word as to whether he's checking their computers for having viewed porn. That would be an interesting thing for him to do. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about this. Apparently, he does that with his son.
He needs to.
His 17-year-old son. They check each other.
They hold each other accountable on jerking off, which is healthy.
That's not fully accurate.
Okay.
It's watching pornography.
Understood. I'm sorry.
It's not. I don't think they get in the showers with each other or anything like that. I mean, I don't think they're or they have
if they were, we know
some type of maybe there's something you could put on like a Fitbit. Mm-hmm. And
or would
send a message to each other.
Chastity Fitbits.
Yes.
Right.
Actually,
monitoring people's pulse and heart rate.
Just in case you were wondering
to get closer to God.
What my side hustle was going to be. Yeah, now I know what it is. A new Fitbit. We're all going to be in a group together with our Fitbits, and we're
chastity rings, but not the ring that goes on your finger. Sorry.
There are. Oh God. There are.
We went down this road.
Well, I didn't go that far. We are 10 days from a government shutdown. And essentially what is the sort of the big story is that the Senate is not really terribly interested in the games that the Republicans in the House want to play. And by the Senate, I'm talking also a significant portion of the Republican senators, because they know there's an election coming up. And Republicans will clearly be blamed for a government shutdown because they are clearly causing it. There are like three ideas apparently that Johnson is considering. This is from Punchbowl. One is called the laddered continuing resolution. I can't even begin to understand it. It is a made-up thing that the Freedom Caucus people have come up with, where essentially they would just
tier the funding bills of, like, there's 12. 4 would be on the December track. 8 would be on the January track, but this is just like a redux of what was done that almost led us to the government shutdown at the end of September, right?
It's a completely like bizarro thing that apparently people in the Senate have never even heard of. That's not going to go anywhere, although that will help sink any type of Republican efforts in the House.
We have a clip of Johnson explaining the laddered CR.
Let's hear this.
Yeah. It's nonsensical, but this is what the Freedom Caucus wants. And this is, this guy's, you know, supposedly closer to this group of crazies than McCarthy.
Can you just tell us more specifically when you expect to make a decision on a CR? Because again, just being 11 days out, we're getting very close to that clock. Also, can you walk us through this ladder CR approach for people who may not understand that, and why consider something new when you're less than 2 weeks out?
Well, listen, our number one objective here is to take care of our obligations and do it in a responsible manner. We want to be good stewards of the public's treasury and treasure. And because we're in the situation that we're in, deeply in debt, we have to do this. We have to think about this differently. So with regard to the latter CR, or maybe a two-tiered CR, it's one of the ideas that has been discussed. There's nothing magical or mysterious about it. It would just be effectively two phases. You would do one part, a subset of the bills by a December date, and the rest of it by a January date. The other alternative is a CR that would go into January with certain stipulations. But again, I'm not going to show you all the cards right now. We have some very constructive, and I think very positive discussions going on. I think it should be palatable to our colleagues in the Senate, because they understand we've got to get the job done. I'll tell you, I'm very encouraged, and I think the American people are encouraged when they see the hard work that's being done here. We made a commitment that we will get back to the business of actually passing appropriations bills.
But they won't. They won't get this. Incidentally, they're also breaking the deal that they signed with the Democrats. What was it, like 5 or 6 months ago now? Yep. So
summer.
Senate doesn't seem to have any interest in this. If I had to bet, they're going to do a clean continuing resolution. I don't know if that goes into January, but it's also possible that the Senate will send a huge omnibus bill that will both effectively approve the budget and include the $100 billion of Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan border aid. There's a couple other smaller things in there for domestic stuff. Basically, the war supplementary to supplement the massive military budget we have. That's what we're looking at.
And then, that would be a way to peel off some of those Republicans in purple states who want to avert a government shutdown for their own electoral chances. And they also want to get Israel this money so they can continue their mass murders in Gaza. But that's what the Senate is prepping. But also Mike Johnson would have to bring that up for a vote, right? And maybe he wouldn't do that.
Well, I don't know what they would have to do. I mean, they could avoid bringing up the bill from the Senate, but the idea that you have the entire Senate saying Mike Johnson, including Mitch McConnell, saying Mike Johnson won't hold a vote on this is it's going to put him in a very tough position, because the real position that's going to be tough is for those 18 Republicans who come from a Joe Biden district. Yep. And, regardless of Joe Biden's favorability numbers, the bottom line is those are people who want government to function. And they're going to have to go back to their constituents and say, why are you supporting Mike Johnson when you've shut down the government?
And you also, I think, now have to worry a little bit about when you're tethering Israel aid to the government, to the omnibus bill, some of these squad members who are growing increasingly vocal about saying that we shouldn't be sending aid to Israel in any way right now until they commit to not doing any more war crimes. That's also a possibility just to monitor.
Well, yeah, I just don't know that they'll get a chance. They won't make the difference in the vote. It's either if the vote comes up, it's going to get enough Democrats and enough Republicans who want to avoid a government shutdown, where those 18 Democrats aren't going to make a difference at that point.
But there's 18 purple state Republicans. It's almost equivalent to that number.
I don't think that we're going to see a situation where only 18 of those defect in terms of the Republicans.
I
think it's going to be that those 18 are going to freak out. But I mean, the scenario you're talking about is I guess conceivable.
It's plausible. It's just something to look at.
But those 18, your addition is wrong, because if the other 190 Democrats vote with the other, with the
18.
Well, I guess you're saying there would only be 18 that would vote. I don't think there's not going to be. Mike Johnson's not going to bring up a bill where only 18 Republicans are going to vote for it. They're going to have to all get along to.
But then we're
vote.
back to square one. Is like, will he bring it up then? Because they're so insane, and we're literally in the same situation we were in September because they don't want to vote for an omnibus bill.
That's what we're going to find out. And they may make a deal, like they will finally get their ability to vote for banning abortion, banning any type of birth control.
Wokeness.
All of it. Right now, the Democrats are already starting to fund and place ads in based on these spending bills for those Republicans we were talking about. Because some of these bills that they're talking about are really nuts. They're going to, try and cut school funding. They're going to try and outlaw abortion federally. It's going to be a whole series of these things. Agriculture cuts. There's just a bunch of stuff, I think, that people... and let's dig in a little bit into Mike Johnson. We haven't had really an opportunity to do this, as there has been more information of Mike Johnson coming out.
It is odd. I mean, he feels like an AI creation. I've said that from the start. Even the way he speaks, he's so nondescript. But he clearly checked a ton of boxes of like being a complete right winger and also a theocrat that was inoffensive to others.
What you're talking about, that AI, is sort of the evangelical. That is
their algorithm.
That's the algorithm, and he has, and a reminder. I did not make this up. This concept of lying for the Lord. This is he has no problem denying certain realities which he knows don't resonate with the vast majority of the American public. They are on a project for minoritarian rule. They realize this. They have no problem with it. You can start to see writings now from the evangelical right saying what they need is a Caesar of their own in the form of Donald Trump. The idea that Mike Johnson is aware that the majority of Americans don't want to have an abortion ban. He doesn't care about that as a matter of governance. He understands it as a matter of politics. So he's out there denying that he ever supported one. Let's play this clip of Mike Johnson. This is clip number 7A. Okay, the first 7.
Talking about abortion here on Fox with Shannon Bream.
I want to talk about some social issues. You've got a lot of critics who say that you are wildly out of step with the American people. Let's talk abortion first. One of the groups opposing you says this: he wants a total abortion ban with no exceptions. He supported bans that would not only criminalize abortion, but ban IVF treatments and common forms of birth control, and that you voted against access to contraception. Where are you on these issues? Is that an accurate assessment of where you are? Because that's not in step with the American people.
No, Shannon, look, I'm pro-life. I've said very clearly, I'm a Bible-believing Christian. I believe in the sanctity of every single human life. So I come to Congress with deep, personally held convictions. But guess what? So do my 434 other colleagues in the House. Everyone comes to Congress with their deeply held convictions. But the process here is that you make law by consensus. And I'm not brought forward any measure to address any of those issues. Right now, our priorities are funding the government, handling these massive national security priorities that we have in crises around the globe, and taking care of changing and reforming how Congress works. That's what we're going to do. Listen, prior to the modern time, I mean, until recently, actually, almost all of our nation's leaders openly acknowledged that they were also Bible-believing Christians. I mean, this is not something that should cause great unrest, okay? It's just that Washington right now, what you're seeing, Washington and the Associated Press Corps are engaging with a leader who openly acknowledges faith and the foundational principles of our country. Okay, I think this is a healthy discussion, but it doesn't affect how we run Congress.
To be clear, though, have you voted against fertility treatments and access to contraception? Would you?
I don't think so. I'm not sure what they're talking about. I really don't remember any of those measures.
But do you oppose anything?
I am personally pro-life, yeah. No, of course not. No, that's something that's blessed a lot of families who have problems with fertility.
Okay, he's lying. He's lying. I mean, he is personally pro-life, and personally pro-life for him means no birth control, no contraceptives, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, Johnson has co-sponsored at least 3 bills hoping to ban abortion at the nationwide level, including the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, the Protecting Pain-Capable Unborn Children from Late-Term Abortions Act, and the Heartbeat Protection Act of 2021, all of which carry criminal penalties of up to 5 years in prison for physicians who perform abortions.
In July of 2022, Mike Johnson voted against the Right to Contraception Act, H.R. 8373. It would create a legal right to obtain and use all FDA administration-approved forms of contraception. Now, to be fair, that was 15 months ago, and I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. But that's how he voted against it.
I mean, he's such an anti-abortion, ideologue, essentially, that in 2015, he blamed abortion on school shootings. The quote is, "Many women use abortion as a form of birth control, in certain segments of society." And it's just shocking and sad, but this is where we are. When you break up the nuclear family, when you tell a generation of people that life has no value, no meaning, that it's expendable, then you do wind up with school shooters. So this is like the level that we're operating at with this man.
And also, to be clear, this isn't, he's not just anti-abortion. People should understand that.
Yep.
I'm sure there are some people who are just anti-abortion. But he is against the ability of women in particular, maybe as a second order, men too, to determine whether or not they're going to not only carry a pregnancy to term. He's for forced births, without a doubt. He's also for forced conception, in the sense that he is voting against birth control. He's voting against birth control. They want to control the sexuality of women, and as a second order, men. Not so much.
No, I'm pretty sure.
Men can be trusted.
I'm pretty sure that the condoms are not going to be the ones that they come for first. We always know that they go.
Trusted. We all know what happened in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
It was Eve who ate the apple, not Adam.
I mean, yes.
But this is where he's at. This guy is a huge right-wing theocrat. He is a Christian nationalist. He has no compunction lying for the Lord. Let's listen to this. This is Mike Johnson from a 2008 radio interview showing both his bigotry about gay people and his fundamental lack of knowledge about history.
Many historians, those who are objective, would look back and recognize and give some credit to the fall of Rome, to not only the deprivation of the society and the loss of morals, but also to the rampant, homosexual behavior that was condoned by the society.
Not so much.
The fall of Rome is largely believed or accepted to have happened in the late 5th century, in like the 480, 470, I can't remember exactly, but it's somewhere around there. And it just so happens that in the 4th and 5th centuries, the spread of Christianity was the period in which Romans became less tolerant of homosexuality. Not more tolerant of homosexuality, but less tolerant of homosexuality. So the reality is, and this is widely accepted.
Yeah. At Rome's heights, many of the senators and statesmen that you read of today were engaged in homosexual relationships with people that they were working with and wrote about it openly.
And as the Roman Empire became less tolerant of homosexuality, they began their fall. Now, does that mean that there's a causal connection between being less tolerant of homosexuality and the fall of Rome? No. But what it does mean is it's impossible that Rome fell because they were more tolerant of homosexuality, because they were not more tolerant of homosexuality during that time. They were less tolerant. But this is the history that these type of religious zealot fundamentalists.
He's a creationist.
Believe.
I mean, he has this New York Magazine has a great piece just like listing some of his insane opinions from the past. I mean, in 2015, Johnson represented the Ark Encounter Creationist theme park, which featured dinosaurs riding on a life-size Noah's Ark in its successful legal battle to secure $18 million in tax subsidies from the state of Kentucky. So he's a creationist, which also means that his historical understanding is completely non-existent, and it's in keeping with his views there of the fall of Rome. I mean, he also has written extensively in the past against gay marriage. He wrote in he was a senior counsel for the ADF. He went before the Louisiana Supreme Court in 2004 and 2014 to defend a statewide ban on gay marriage. He's got a long record of being just a traditional theocratic conservative. And so the fact that he's denying this on cable news and denying his past, I mean, it's lying for the Lord, as you say. As long as you're doing the Lord's work, it doesn't really matter if you're an imperfect vessel. It's all about the ends justifying the means, right?
But the important thing, though, Emma, is that he's a good parent.
Oh, sure.
And
involved in his kid's life.
Involved in his kid's life. I have a 10-year-old son. I have an 18-year-old daughter. And, of course, I began to monitor their porn intake shortly after watching this clip last year of Mike Johnson
sharing some like really impressive technology with the world. Why are you against modernity?
Here we go.
With covenant eyes within your home. And so why is that such an effective tool? Why do parents need to put this into their home?
Yeah, that's great question. We probably could have called this more appropriately a war on the darkness of technology, because there are some good things with technology, of course. I mean, the Bible apps we all love, we broadcast our services, on our social media, and there's some very positive things, but there's also, as Clint's pointed out aptly, some really dark things. So Covenant Eyes is the software that we've been using a long time in our household. I first learned about it at, I think, a Promise Keepers event in the early 2000s. I think it was developed in about the year 2000. But it's the largest accountability software that there is, and there's some paperwork out there on the table that I think everybody may have picked up on the way in. If not, go get it. It's a subscription-based. I mean, we don't make any money on this. I'm telling you, we use it. Okay, I'm endorsing it because I'm a user. It's about $15 a month, $16 a month, something like that. And you get up to 10 devices. And what it is accountability software. So men in a church, men's Bible study groups will do it. That's how it's presented at Promise Keepers. But they also mention, hey, when your kids become teenagers, especially if you have boys, dads, they're talking to the guys at this event, you might want to think about doing this with your sons. And so we've been doing that. And so what it does real simply is it has an algorithm and software. It's way above my head how it works, but it scans, you obviously opt into it, but it scans all the activity on your phone or your devices, your laptop, tablet, what have you. We do all of it. And then it sends a report to your accountability partner. So my accountability partner right now is Jack, my son, right? And so he's 17. So he and I get a report of all the things that are on our phones or all of our devices once a week. If anything objectionable comes up, your accountability partner gets an immediate notice. I'm proud to tell you my son he's got a clean slate, all right? Yeah. But we get a report and it says, hey, no activity of concern, and it's really, really sensitive. It'll pick up almost anything. It looks for keywords, search terms, and also images. Ooh. And it will send your accountability partner a blurred picture of the image. And so on occasion I get one. I was just looking at the one from this week I got on Jack, and it said, This is the only one that may be questionable, and it's this blurred image of two women talking in a live screen thing, and I zoom in and I have to unblur it, and it's two middle-aged teachers.
Oh God! Wait, whoa! This is getting hot. It's two middle-aged teachers doing what?
What happens next? We tried to grab more of this talk. Bradley told us that he tried to, but as soon as this news started to break out, the I guess church or the religious organization that put on this talk put the video on private. So yeah, that's all the context that we have. I mean, and I don't know if my brain and my ears could take much more, to be honest. But
big credit to the Twitter account Receipt Maven for finding this, because this was an unlisted YouTube video on the Cypress Baptist Church YouTube account in Benton, Louisiana, and I guess after they found it, they made the video private.
Yeah, because it's a little creepy. I mean, he's zooming in like he's, he's like Jack Bauer or something like that on the
zooming on these.
Well,
enhance.
I got news for you. As somebody who has like like a family thing, like I've done this with my kids, where it's like you cut off certain websites. Now I don't read the stuff and I don't get an accountability report, but I also know that if it included my phone, I could shut it off from my phone.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit suspect that Mike is at the same, but the bottom line is this is the society that he foresees. This guy is a right-wing authoritarian theocrat who believes in monitoring the sexuality of his 17-year-old son. And I got news for you. There is no doubt in my mind that he would have no compunction in monitoring other people's sexuality, and certainly is willing to sort of like geofence them from being able to buy contraception in that sense. So this is the guy who is in charge of this. Now, one last clip we have of Mike Johnson. It's interesting. He claims he has no financial interest whatsoever in that accountability app. What was it? The Covenant app?
Yeah.
The Covenant, and people should read into, like, they have a covenant marriage. They can't get divorced. He and his wife.
I also like the idea too of the fact go on, Sam. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, the point being is that their covenant is strict religious fundamentalism in which he oversees everyone. Now, right. It's possible he has no interest in that, and that's just an app that he promotes. That they don't give him any money, that he doesn't own a share of it. And we could easily know by looking at his financial disclosures, because every member of Congress must make such disclosures. Like, it would say, like, I own this much in that, or I own that much in this, or I have this much money in that bank account, or I have that much money in that bank account. Here is more from that Fox News Sunday where they ask him, like, about the fact that you have no bank accounts or assets listed on your disclosures.
But I have to ask you this because there's been so much made about it. Vanity Fair says this. What's up with Mike Johnson's very shady seeming financial disclosures? They say you've never reported a bank account or an asset on a financial disclosure form going back to 2016. Can you clear that up for us?
Yes, look, I'm a man of modest means, okay? I was a lawyer, but I did constitutional law, and most of my career I spent in the nonprofit sector. We have 4 kids, 5 now, that are very active, and I have kids in graduate school, law school, undergraduate. We have a lot of expenses, but I can relate to everybody else. My father was a firefighter, right? I didn't grow up with great means, but I think that helps us be a better leader because we can relate to every hardworking American family. That's who we are, and I think it governs and helps govern my decisions and how I lead.
Well, majority of Americans now say they're living paycheck to paycheck, so a lot of folks in the same boat.
Oh, in the same boat
as they try
as
to
you.
figure out this economy.
Yeah.
Speaker, we're
lots of folks with no bank account who are in Congress who are trying. I mean, that was a shameful lack of follow-up.
I'm a man of modest means. I have no reported assets.
Yes,
right?
except I do own a home.
I can-
so
listen, I
I
can
had to have a bank account at one point.
Well, he could rent.
He has a home. Like, I think that was one part of the disclosure, but no bank account that was disclosed.
Well, it turns out, do we have a follow-up clip to this, or is it just a statement that he put out? Statement that Mike Johnson put out that his checking account is a completely no interest bearing account and therefore does not need to be disclosed according to the House ethics requirements. Now, for a guy who really wants to be an important, like a financial steward, I mean, really no interest?
Yeah.
I mean, checking accounts at low interest, but absolutely no interest, and you don't have a savings account.
Yeah. He has a mortgage. That's what I just wanted to clarify.
All the money comes in, and every month he makes a couple $100,000, right? As a congressman, what is it now? Up to about 200,000, 190 something. I would not be shocked if his wife did not work, and his money comes in and just stays in a checking account, no savings account.
Odd.
I mean, I get that you may not have much in your savings account, but not $200, $300. You just hit the perfect number every month, and you're like, I'm going to leave it in this completely zero. I personally, I think there is some super weird situation going on.
Absolutely. I mean,
where he's
looking
like
at
giving the money to his
LLCs,
church.
Yes, of
and he gets
course,
an
hiding it
allowance
in
from
the
his church or something.
Yes, tax-free over there, and that would be in service of God, so it doesn't really matter. Again, like, he also did not anticipate being in this position. So if he had more time to mount a campaign for speakership, he might have done a little bit of kind of disclosure or gone back and make it look a little bit less shady. But obviously, this is bizarre. There's no chance. There's no way.
Someone's saying that he's a gold bug, but no, if he was a gold bug, he'd have to report those assets as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it that there are checking accounts that they don't pay any interest, but the idea that you wouldn't also have a savings account with it, associated with it, when you're making $200,000 a year, I find that hard to believe. Maybe it's the case. But I also suspect that there's something else going on here. And I think even his dad, who was a fireman, probably had a savings account. Yeah.
Quite bizarre.
All right. Before we go to the fun half, let's just talk a little bit about the latest news regarding Gaza.
So basically, now we know for certain that 10,000 Palestinians killed in this month's long bombing of the small area of the Gaza Strip, 140-ish square miles around that. And we had speculated on this program before that we felt that it was likely that the Israeli government would use this as an excuse to continue to occupy the Gaza Strip or annex it. And I think that the way that they've announced that essentially they're dividing Gaza into north and south, and the north is where they're doing these military operations and where they're doing this indiscriminate bombing. And we should be clear, 10,000 is like but definitely an undercount because there's so many bodies under rubble. But this is an opportunity for land seizure for the Israeli government, I would say. And that is definitionally ethnic cleansing by every single definition.
Yeah, they literally have ethnically cleansed the northern Gaza. They say they're going to stay there. And you put up that tweet of what the NSC chief has said. This is I can't remember Kirby's first name, but John Kirby. John Kirby's response to being asked about IDF efforts to minimize civilian deaths. This he was asked yesterday. Kirby says, and this is a quote. We've checked this quote from a couple of different sources, just so that you know. We have seen some indications that there are efforts being applied in certain scenarios to try to minimize, but I don't want to overstate that. I mean, this to me seems like, and I don't want to overstate this, but a limited acceptance, acquiescence to the charge that Israel has been engaged in a war crime. Because even in the most sort of generous reading of the internationally based rules regime of war, the idea is that you must make all efforts to avoid killing innocent civilians. And he's saying that they have only seen, they only see that there are efforts being applied in certain scenarios.
Oh, I mean, how many caveats can you count there? 3 in a, 2-sentence quote there?
Here's what's also enraging about this. And Ayabe says, I'm really puzzling over the fact that Biden can't or won't call for a ceasefire. I'm wondering if they're throwing the election. Do you think they even care? There's a huge chance they'll lose. Do you think they're actually aware of it? I don't want to waste too much time pondering over that, but it had really wrecked my brain. Curious to hear what you say. Well, first off, I suspect that they don't see it as the political liability that you do. They may be wrong in that point, but I just don't think they see it as the political liability, or that it won't be a liability a year from now. That's my guess. Or they're banking on the idea that there's fundamentally no difference between Biden and Trump on this issue. I mean, even the Republican Congress wants to send that $14 billion to Israel. You've got Trump's former Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, who wants to ban Palestinians from coming into this country. Donald Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem.
Marsha Blackburn saying that Rashida Tlaib is calling for the genocide of Jews.
But here's the part that I find really just enraging in many, one of the parts that I find enraging. Today, or yesterday, I should say, we saw 2 different pieces basically saying the same thing. In the New York Times, Biden confronts the limits of U.S. leverage in 2 conflicts. That's from the New York Times by David Sanger. In the Washington Post, White House frustrated by Israel's onslaught, but sees few options. In this, pull up the Times one if you can. and then to get the Washington Post. I'm going to read just from the Sanger piece. The Sanger piece is almost something that you'd want to like hang in your art gallery. It is fascinating. And you're going to have to trust me because I'm not going to read the entire piece. But scroll down. It says, for 10 days, the Biden administration has been urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to allow for humanitarian pauses in the bombing of Gaza, hoping that the $3.8 billion a year in American security assistance would carry with it enough influence over the Israeli leaders' tactics.
So just in and of itself.
Okay, now hold on.
Okay.
It has not.
Yeah.
Mr. Netanyahu rebuffed Mr. Biden's push for greater efforts to avoid civilian casualties in a phone call on Monday, and he's pushed ahead with what he's called mighty vengeance for the October 7th attack, using huge bombs to collapse Hamas's network of tunnels, even if they also collapse whole neighborhoods in Gaza. Now, I mean, and then I'm going to skip down. The other two is just sort of like, then there's three paragraphs talking about Ukraine. There's a long history of U.S. presidents realizing they don't have as much leverage over Israel as they thought, said Representative Seth Moulton, Massachusetts Democrat, former Marine. And then he talks about Ukraine. Then there's another paragraph that just talks about the history of these things and somebody talking about Hamas and Putin. And then Mr. Biden brings to a passion to these fights that he reaches back to his days as chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and vice president. His aides report that he believes history will remember him for how he defended democracy against forces of chaos, terror, and dictatorship. Okay. And that's just about it. There are two sort of like things that seem to be missing from that.
A fundamental understanding of what leverage means?
Well, there's also $14 billion in the pipeline to go to Israel on top of the 3.8. That's not mentioned once in this piece on how frustrated the administration is that they don't have any leverage. Are they not aware that there's $14 billion that they have said we want to go to Israel?
Yeah.
Two, I would also add that those huge bombs to collapse Hamas's network of tunnels, even if they also collapse whole neighborhoods in Gaza, it's not so much, I mean, it's bad to collapse buildings.
Yes.
That's obviously very bad.
Making millions homeless, 1.5 million displaced. But there's also the issue of what happens when buildings collapse on children in one of the most densely populated areas on the planet.
When you see two pieces come out in the same day that are essentially the same pieces, the New York Times, Sanger's doing his piece, Biden confronts the limit of the U.S. leverage in two conflicts, and then put up this Washington Post one. White House frustrated by Israel's onslaught, but sees few options.
We've tried nothing and we're all out of options. We've tried nothing and nothing's working.
Now, to be fair, this piece is longer and more in depth, but I want to read this one paragraph from it. It is deep into the piece. So scroll down, see if you can find it, Bradley. It starts with Washington's is Israel's largest military backer. Now, it's sort of amazing. Yeah, there you go. It's sort of amazing that you go through. Can you scroll through? Well, can you scroll through this piece? Maybe highlight that so you can return to it, and then scroll through. Look at how long this piece is before we get to where the leverage is from. Okay, keep going down. 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 Okay. Washington is Israel's largest military backer. And the White House has asked Congress for an additional $14 billion in aid for Israel in the wake of the Hamas attacks. But administration officials and advisors say the levers of the United States theoretically has over Israel, such as conditioning military aid on making the military campaign more targeted, are non-starters. Partly because they would be so politically unpopular in any administration and partly because they'd say Biden himself has a personal attachment to Israel. Now, I don't know what it means they would be so politically unpopular in any administration means, other than them basically saying that the blob, as it were, regardless of who is president, would have a problem with the $14 billion in aid. I mean, that number doesn't come out of the blue, right?
No.
I mean, would someone be mad with 16 if it's why it's not 16 billion? Would someone be mad if it's not 11 billion? Would someone be mad if it's not 8 billion? Like, who are we talking about here? The idea that the leverage is theoretical is not theoretical. That is not theoretical. It is, no one is using that leverage. They have decided not to use the leverage because it is a non-starter to even mention not giving it to them.
I mean, and even though there are dissent cables being filed within the State Department of many workers there essentially saying, this is untenable and this is a genocide, and I do not want to sign my name to this. The dissent cables started in the Vietnam War for people to express internally their, frustrations, but we need to start seeing even more resignations over this to get the message really through here, not just internal cables.
War Sucks asks this question, which has been asked many times on the show. We've answered it many times. But Sam, what would a one-sided ceasefire look like? Well, what a one-sided ceasefire would look like is sort of the opposite of the one-sided bombing campaign we see right now. Okay? So what you would do is you would no longer level. You would no longer level Gaza. You would no longer drop bombs indiscriminately on Gaza.
And on the hostages that are there, by the way.
And you would stop. It seems to me that if there are rockets being fired from Gaza into Israel, you could do a targeted response on those installations.
And a targeted response on Hamas, if you'd like, as well, in terms of like special operations. I mean, we're not talking about a military that is starved for resources at this point. Israel has the most weaponry, the most technologically advanced weaponry possible, and a ton of it.
You would also maybe say we're going to have some benchmarks instead of like killing more civilians than terrorists, in your estimation, or Hamas members, or whatever you want, however you want to refer to them. Instead of saying we're going to do 10-1 or 5-1 or 1-1, maybe you would say we need to be sure of killing X number of military versus civilians at that point.
But that would be a rational response, and that's not what they're engaging in.
Let me answer this question. I mean, I want to answer this question because this person keeps asking the same question. What's a good idea to how to deal with Hamas? I think this is a bad idea on how to deal with Hamas, because you may get rid of the organization Hamas. I don't think you will. The leaders are in Qatar. If you really want to go after the leadership of Hamas, you should be bombing Qatari TV studios. Why isn't Israel doing that? Because the price of a Palestinian living in Gaza's life is just much cheaper for them than the cost associated with bombing a TV studio in Qatar. But I would say, how would you deal with Hamas? The way I would deal with Hamas is say, we have effed this up for 40 years. And what we need to do is continue to have our Iron Dome, continue to police our border, and then start pouring money into and do exactly what Israel did with Hamas, which was give them more favorable treatment, nurture their growth, allow funding to come in via Qatar. All of those things they did to promote Hamas in Gaza so that the Palestinian Authority and that the Palestinian leadership would be fractured and there would be no political force in which to essentially generate either a 1 or 2 state solution. That has been the explicit strategy of the Israeli government for years. I would do the opposite. I would release Bugatti from the Marwan Bugatti from the prison. From prison, I would nurture other competing secular Palestinian political movements. I would pull back from the settlements in the West Bank, and I would spend a multi-decade year project disempowering Hamas by empowering other Palestinians. Now, the Israeli government will not do that. I understand that. But you wanted an option. That's the option.
Yes. And
the option that they're pursuing now clearly has failed.
They're dropping. I just want to give a sense of this. They dropped more bombs in Gaza in 1 week. It's been multiple weeks in 1 week than Afghanistan did, or than the United States did in Afghanistan in the heaviest year of the bombardment. Afghanistan is 252,000 square miles. Gaza is 141 square miles. So we do the opposite of that.
Rhonda Reagan says, are you aware of the Ben Gurion Canal? I don't think it's about the Ben Gurion Canal. If anything, it is far more likely about offshore drilling rights from Gaza. Ben Gurion Canal is going to provide $6 billion a year, maybe in revenue. I'm sure from the United States perspective, they're very happy to have Israel be able to be self-funded and not have both the political and the financial obligations in which to continue to support this this country. But I would imagine it's also the oil leasing rights. I think there's a lot more money there.
I mean, the ethnic cleansing is the first order objective here, obviously. To Sam's point, if you really wanted to go after Hamas leadership, we know where they are. We know where Hamas leadership is. I mean, they're doing TV spots. But this is about collectively punishing an entire population that the Israeli government and unfortunately many Israelis see as surplus due to decades and decades of brainwashing about the existential threat of the scary Arabs. So we're dealing with a nationalist, religious nationalist government, however you want to paint it, but one that's been emboldened by the most powerful country in the world through weapons and through constant aid that the United States is about to triple the aid likely that they receive without them essentially even attaching any conditions to it as they engage in what scholars have called crimes of genocide. It's insane. It's insane. And I mean, Biden's ideological or commitment to Israel or his sympathies, that's what the moral leadership that he said he would bring back to the White House. That's pretty threadbare, if you ask me.
All right, we're going to head into the fun half of the program. Reminder from Mainers from Haywood. Okay. Mainers, vote no on Proposition 1 and yes on Proposition 3 to support Pine Tree Power. This is a really important vote, too. Failed to mention at the beginning of the show. We've had people on to talk about this. It's basically, I don't know what the word is when a state takes over the power. It's not nationalization, obviously, because it's not a national thing, but it is essentially a state government takeover of the power production and delivery in Maine. And there's absolutely no reason why Maine wouldn't do it, in my estimation. So if you want Pine Tree Power, vote no on Proposition 1, because they have been very sophisticated in the way that they're trying to make this impossible. There's like one vote, which is Proposition 3. You could vote yes on Proposition 3, but then Proposition 1 actually inhibits Proposition 3 from going through. So it is vote no on Proposition 1 and yes on Proposition 3 in Maine. Tell your friends, go out and vote. We will see you in the fun half. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only support the free show, you get the free show free of commercials, and then you get the fun half. You also get to IM us on the fun half via the free app. And don't forget, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, including the Majority Report blend. Be the most popular person on your block. Have the Majority Report coffee blend. That's where everybody's going to want to come and have your coffee clatches. Majority Report.
What's a clatch? What's a coffee clatch?
You don't know what a coffee clatch is?
Never heard of such a
It's
thing.
like everybody gets together and has some coffee.
That's nice.
Talks.
Ah, all right.
Majority Report blend.
I learn something new every day.
JustCoffee.coop. Great co-op out of Madison, Wisconsin. Emma, ESPN.
Yeah, we went pretty deep into, I would say, the most exciting week in the NFL so far. Week 9, we spoke about C.J. Stroud. We talked about the AFC North being a juggernaut. We talked about Daniel Jones being out for the year. The Giants probably should tank for the rest of the year. And we also dove into the Jim Harbaugh sign-stealing scandal at Michigan and what that really means for the NCAA. YouTube.com/ESPN show.
All right, folks. Also check out
Left Reckoning.
Left Reckoning. Matt is very distraught over Doug Burgum not going to be in the debate tomorrow night, so we gave him 24 hours to collect himself. He came in this morning. He was just like falling to pieces.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing.
Honestly, we had to send him home.
And so we said, go home, get yourself together, come back tomorrow and buck up. Doug Burgum's could shoot up in the polls and maybe be. Is there a fourth debate? Yeah. There's a fourth debate.
There's still chance.
Keep hope alive.
Yeah.
And so Matt will be back tomorrow. All right. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous. You're a little bit upset. You're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457-238-56-27. 1 half. 5 eighths. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy!
Dance, dance, dance.
Rand Paul.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
Do.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up. Ooh. Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey, shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland. Majority Report. Sam's 20-minute tush. I am's at my polling place right now in rural Kentucky. All Kentuckians, let's go. Woo. Bashir. Antonia's Scalia's ghost. Question for you guys. Can you go into the "From the River to the Sea, Palestine will be free" slogan? I've noticed since October 7th, even more in the past couple of weeks, that slogan has been a point of contention. Some say it's a call for a free Palestinian state. Others, mostly bad faith actors, from what I can tell, call it a slogan to genocide Jewish Israelis. Could you provide some clarity? All I can tell you is that it is not a call to genocide. It is a call for liberation for the people who were dispossessed. And that dispossession happened from the river to the sea. But I will also say that